Hey guys, today I'm going to go back and look at the Venus-Pleiades conjunction that happened on April 3rd, 2020. But just real quick before we go over that stuff, my last two videos, or in my last few videos here, I talked about August 11th and August 19th. And on August 19th, I had showed a little bit about the stock market. And there was a downturn in the stock market on August 19th. And then there was this interesting story on August 11th about someone who tried to break into the FBI office in Cincinnati. And we're going to get into that later. Some interesting synchronicities with myself with these events. That was August 19th and August 11th. And like I said, we'll get to that later. I just want to go over the importance of this April 3rd, 2020 Venus-Pleiades conjunction. And back on March 6th, 2020 is when I first started talking about this or showing this alignment, the Venus and Pleiades conjunction. And on that day, April 3rd, 2020, just happened to be on the Mayan long count calendar. The date was 130770. And the ordinal gematria value of Revelation 8:11 is 1377. And that's, of course, what my channel is all about, the falling wormwood star, Revelation 8:11. But we had this Mayan calendar synchronicity or sync up with the Gregorian calendar with the Venus-Pleiades conjunction. And what's interesting about that being that 1377 is the ordinal gematria value of Revelation 8:11. I've covered this before, but it just happens to be that the Mayan calendar, if we go back to the beginning of the Mayan calendar, it actually started on 8/11, 3114 BC. If we convert that to the Gregorian calendar, the Mayan calendar started on 8/11. And in this video, I'm also going to go over the origins of 8/11 and the origins of the United States of America. And the word America itself has to do with the Mesoamerican or Mayan language. Some very interesting things with 8/11 and the Mayan calendar. So this synchronizing of the date of the Venus-Pleiades conjunction and the Mayan calendar, no coincidence here. And I'm also going to be talking just a little bit about the book of Revelation from the Bible itself, from the King James Bible. King James, he was a crown Templar. Of course, Templars are related to the Freemasons, and one of my theories or thoughts on the book of Revelation that kind of stands apart from the other books. There's a lot of hidden information in Revelation, especially to do with astronomical alignments, like from Revelation 1:13. This is the verse that kind of describes the Venus-Pleiades alignment. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, and the seven candlesticks here are the Pleiades, one unto like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and a girt about the paps with a golden girdle. One of the items associated with Venus is the girdle, and the Venus forms the pentagram in the sky. If we follow the orbit of Venus, it'll form what's called the Venus pentagram, or the petals of Venus, and the intersecting lines of a pentagram form the golden ratio. So this 1:13 here, it's describing the Venus-Pleiades conjunction. And as I showed you before, from Revelation 12:1, also has to do with Venus. The Revelation 12 sign was the Venus-Sun inferior conjunction on June 3rd, 1769. That was immediately followed by a total solar eclipse. So in the book of Revelation itself, we get all these, coded or hidden astronomical alignments. And I'll be talking about the lamp too. The lamp is associated with Venus, right? Venus is the light bearer, the lamp, and I'll show you how that works with Venus as well. Has to do with the census. So let's take a look at this Pleiades conjunction that we had back on April 3rd, 2020. They showed it to us in Super Bowl 54. They showed this alignment, and actually what they did is they connected it to the movie The Golden Child. Bobby Simpson had pointed this out to me, but all these children in these cages that are forming the Pleiades here, this Pleiades star cluster, they're in these cages, and that's from The Golden Child. Remember, Venus makes the pentagram, and the pentagram defines the golden ratio. And the reason they use the Golden Child reference here is because it stars Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy, his birthday was on April 3rd, 2020, so his birthday just fell on the conjunction date there. So that's why they were doing the tribute to Eddie Murphy, the Golden Child, the golden ratio. And so that's our connection there to the Super Bowl. A very important alignment because it sets a huge timeline, I believe, one of the most important timelines since it's connected to this chapter 1 of Revelation. So let's go here through the 8/11s that are connected to the Mayan calendar. Remember, the Mayan calendar started on 8/11, and our Venus Pleiades conjunction was on 1377 on the Mayan calendar, the ordinal gematria value of Revelation 8/11. And America itself was founded, and some major events have this 8/11 connection. So we have from the Revelation 12 sign to the completion of the full pentagram that started with the Revelation 12 sign to the founding of the United States. That was 8 months and 11 total days. And then if we look at the Constitution, it was ratified and became effective after 8 months, 11 days. And the word America, I'll go back to this slide here. I'll just read this here. You guys can go through the rest of it, but I'll just read the first couple lines. These children of the sun adore the plumed serpent who is the messenger of the sun. He was the god Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, Gucumatz in Quiche, and in Peru he was called Amaru. From the latter name comes from our word America or Amaruca. It's literally translated in the land of the plumed serpent. So this Amaru is the same as Quetzalcoatl, the serpent, the Mayan serpent god. And if we kind of look at this other definition, or the suffix of America, it means the name for America or Amerique in the Mayan language means the country of perpetually strong wind, or the land of the wind. And sometimes the suffix ik or ika can not only mean wind or air, but also a spirit that breathes life itself. And I've talked about this before, but we're entering the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is an air age, right? In America, Amaru, Ika. So we have Amaru, the serpent, and Ik, air. And that's where we get our origin of the United States of America. Like I said, you can read the rest of this. I'll show you another thing here, but the name America, or excuse me, Flag Day, the original Flag Day on June 14th, 1777, resolved that the flag of the 13 United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation. So even when we got our first flag, they were referencing constellations. So everything here that we see is all about astronomy. And like I said, King James was a Templar, and the Templars and the Freemasons and most of these secret societies, or I would say all, hold astronomy or astrology or astrological alignments in very high regard, and like coding them into things. Right? Don't tread on me, the serpent. And even if we look at the mythology of Quetzalcoatl, it's similar to that of Jesus. In a version of the myth, Quetzalcoatl was born by a virgin named Camalman, whom the god Antial appeared in a dream. In another story, the virgin Camalman conceived Quetzalcoatl by swallowing an emerald. So these have, this story of the Mayan story kind of Quetzalcoatl kind of mimics the Jesus story. And you guys have heard of these two movies, I'm sure, The Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto. Both of these movies are by Mel Gibson. And I just want to show you this time frame between these two movies, kind of connecting this idea of the Quetzalcoatl and Jesus connection, that the people in Hollywood are making this connection as well, connecting it to the Mayan calendar, being it started on 8/11, 3114 BC. Anyway, so this movie, Passion of the Christ, came out on February 25th, 2004. And then we go to the movie Apocalypto, which came out on December 8th, 2006. Both these movies by Mel Gibson. But you can see the time between their release dates was 33 months and 13 days. And I've covered that number quite a bit, because that's where Revelation 8:11 sits in between Revelation 6:12, the great earthquake, and Revelation 9:11. And remember, 9/11 just happens to sit in the book of Revelation in the spot that defines the golden ratio. But move 33 verses from 6:12, the great earthquake, gets it to 8:11, and to 9:11 is 13 more. So this 33:13 connection. I showed you the 33:13 connections many times before. Israel was created on a vote of 33-13. Revelation 8:11, the 1377. So we had this Venus-Pleiades conjunction that was so important. They showed us in the Super Bowl. It's in the book of Revelation. They like to connect this date of August 11th in the Mayan calendar together. America's named after the plumed serpent and the air. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And even the suffix "ik" or "ika" means air or wind or spirit. And if we look at, I've talked about this a lot before, but I think Chicago is definitely a connection here, because Chicago is known as the Windy City. We have the Crown Building in Chicago. I've talked about McCormick Place, all the connections, the connection from the Georgia Guidestones. The Guidestones are 585 miles to Chicago, McCormick Place, and 585 is that earthquake number. San Jacinto is 811 nautical miles to McCormick Place. And all these connections to Chicago. The Roswell UFO crash is connected to Trump Tower. That's our air connection. And then April 3rd, 2020. I showed you guys this before, but 2020 is, or was, the year 2020 is the only year that's divisible by 404. There's 404 total verses of Revelation. So it was a perfect divisor of 404. So I believe that's why I believe the events of Revelation actually started on April 3rd, 2020. And another connection here to this Venus-Pleiades conjunction is the United States Census, which started just 2 days before the conjunction on April 1st, 2020. And they have the lamp here in their symbol for the census. So let's go through these slides real quick, and I'll show you the date connections for this conjunction here. So we have Jesus in the Greek isopsephy is 888. In Jewish, it's 985. And in ordinal Jesus is 74. Now, if you remember from the Bible, the reason Joseph and Mary went to Bethlehem is because there was a census. They were to be taxed, so everyone had to go to their own city to be counted, to be taxed. So there was a census being taken, and back in those days it was the Assyrian calendar, and if we look at the census here for 2020, they actually say that we had a 7.4% rise in population in the 2020 census, just like the gematria value of Jesus. And then we'll get to these other two numbers here that are very significant. But we actually had the Queen die on September 8th, 2022. That just happened to be 888 days after the Venus-Pleiades conjunction, right? And then so King Charles took over, just like Jesus is the king. I think this was their own little ritual to this date alignment here. You know, the king took over on September 8th, 888 days after the Venus-Pleiades conjunction. Then we had April 1st, 2020. That was actually the start, the new year for the Assyrian year, 6771. This happens to be the exact mirror of 1776. And as I told you guys before, if we do all the permutations of 811 and 141, they sum to 1776, because 811 is the 141st prime number. And it just happens to sit in that position in Revelation as well. So if we go out to 911 days after this conjunction, it's going to land on October 1st, 2022. So that's another date to kind of look for events for. And the reason I have 983 days here, in the King James Bible, the word Jesus is referenced 983 times. And then that would land on 12/12/2022. And in the Jewish cipher, Jesus is 985. So this 983, 984, 985 date range will be important to watch too. December 12th through the 14th. And then coming up on August 11th, 2023, 811. It just happens to be 1,225 days after the Venus-Pleiades conjunction. And the reason that's significant is because the magic square of Venus is 1225. Just like Christmas is on 1225. So another very synchronistic alignment with 811 and the magic square of Venus with this conjunction. And I want to show you the 1377 day connection to Chernobyl. Remember, 811 is about wormwood. Wormwood is related to Chernobyl. Chernobyl means wormwood in the Ukrainian. But if we go 1377 days after the Venus-Pleiades conjunction, it's January 10th, 2024. And if we add 13,770 days after the Chernobyl event on April 26, 1986, it's on January 7th, 2024. So within 3 days of each other, we have this 1377 connection with Chernobyl and the Venus-Pleiades conjunction. That 1377, significant because the Venus-Pleiades conjunction was 1377 on the Mayan calendar. And that gets us out to January 10th, 2024. And another interesting connection, I had talked about this eclipse before. There's a annular eclipse coming up on October 14th, 2023. And that annular eclipse is just going to happen to pass over directly over Corpus Christi, Texas, right? Corpus Christi, body of Christ. and it enters the United States in Oregon, the 33rd state. Right, this is where we just had our Uvalde shooting right in between these two eclipses. The exit forms with the 2024 eclipse and the 2023 annular eclipse. So we have this X here, but this 2023 annular eclipse passes right over the Corpus Christi, Texas. But the reason I have this date here, April 3rd, 2020, the conjunction to Saturday, October 14th, 2023, counting the end date, 1,290 days. I was just looking at this Daniel from King James Bible Hill, Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. So it's just kind of interesting that this eclipse just happens to be 1,290 days after the conjunction, if we count the end date. Now on April 3rd, 2020, I don't know, I didn't really find a whole lot, or didn't look too hard on what daily sacrifice was taken away on that day that could connect to this, but certainly significant connection there with the 1290 with the eclipse. No coincidence, I'm sure. Okay, guys, yeah, super important. That date, I think, set the timeline. That was probably the timeline that, among other timelines, probably one of the most important timelines to follow is this Venus-Pleiades conjunction. Okay, guys, thanks for watching.